How's it going, my wonderful viewers? It's Marvin. We're back in the Create Mod world. I've done a lot of work on this track, as you can see. I actually had some more video to share at the end of the last episode, but I ended up scrapping it because the video was getting too long and, things were happening. So I made quite a lot of progress, and I'm just going to go on a quick recap of everything that's gone on. As you can see, we're going through here on the track I built. We've gotten quite a bit of progress on it. I haven't made it all the way to the mineshaft, which was our goal, but I'm getting pretty dang close, and we should be near the base now. Yeah, we're coming on in here. You can see in the distance that monstrosity. We'll go over what that is and a couple more things. First of all, I have made the decision to cut back down to one track. So as you can see, our track, before I had it, this was going straight and I was going to have a two-way track. We're down to one. I may expand that in the future. Oh well. But you will also notice I've added not one, but two new trains to our system here. These are neither really meant to look good, but they're definitely both functional. So this guy over here is just a little smaller. It's just a bogie and two controls, and basically the idea behind that is I can just travel along our track. This is just for me getting from point A to point B, very simple. And the reason there's two is because when you go backwards, you actually go pretty slow, and so I have another one in on the other side, so I can travel back and forth on the track with no issue. This guy right here, though, is a little more interesting. This is a completely utility tool, I guess, that I've been using to help me as I go along placing the track down. So what I do is I take the track, I place it down from point A to point B, and then I drive over it with this thing. And so here's the idea behind this. The drills here are all just to clear stuff out in front. So, I have a pretty wide array, and then I also have it like sloping a little bit so that the terrain will form around it, and I have plenty of room on either side. I have saws at the top so that if there's trees in the way, it cuts down the tree from the rest of it up. And then these guys down here, the mechanical rollers, I will show you after I take a quick nap, if you don't mind me. The mechanical rollers. These guys are pretty cool. They will place down, they will clear up the terrain around the track, so it'll act like a drill on the layer that they're at. And then they will also, somewhere in the ponder here, it will replace the layer beneath them. So this is how I'm also laying down the gravel. And on some of the parts where it's like slopes or curves, it's very convenient to have these around, because then I don't have to put as much brain power towards where my gravel goes on those kind of confusing sections. So yeah, this thing is really nice. I just run this right over the track. Oh, and by the way, it pulls in the materials from these chests here. So a bunch of gravel in here. This one I use to just collect the materials that the drills take out. So yeah, that's how I've been laying the track, and we've got it pretty far. I'll show you on the map. We got down across over here. I passed by that big hole I was talking about. Here's where our portal is. So the ladder to our end portal is right there. And then we go back up around a curve and all the way across. And right here, you'll notice this little bit here. We actually cut through. This is a big old hill. And so I have a big tunnel going through here. So this is where our track is at right now. And basically to get there, I just need to curve up and go right up to our mineshaft. It's not very much left, and so maybe I'll show you how this thing works when I get there. But for now, I have a big project to do, which is to clean up all the debris and all the garbage around our track, because it does not look very pretty right now, as you may have noticed in the beginning when we were running through on that train. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and clean up all that track and hopefully make it look pretty good. While I was out driving just now, I was looking around and I saw, like, in the corner of my eye, I'm like, is that a bee? No, that's my horse. I've been looking for this guy for forever. He's been out by the portal room. I had no idea. This is a super fast horse. I need to bring this thing back to the base. So anyways, without further ado here, I'm going to get into a short little montage of cleaning up this track before we get into the fun stuff, which is going to be a tunnel over at the end of the track and a bridge over near our base area. And those are probably going to be the main points for today. It's going to be a bit of a builder, not much content until we finally settle down in our next area, which I got big plans for, and you should be excited for that, but not yet. We got to do the boring, hard work in the world, making track. Got another interesting find here. Get a load of this guy. Where the heck did he come from? I mean, if you look on the map, I'm here. This is our base. This is the other base. These are the only 2 portals I think I built in this whole world. So, dude either like somehow tracked his way all the way over. Like I don't understand how this even happened. But homie somehow found his way here. Whatever. We press on. I've finally made it over to the mining area. You guys remember this place from those very first few episodes. Yeah, we're finally returning here. I do have plans for stuff we can do here, but yeah, this was our end destination. I ended up taking advantage of the fact that we were going north at the end here to run it right under our bridge here, and so the track can maybe continue on this way. I don't know where it's gonna go though, because there's nothing really north for now, and I think if I wanted to go north anyways, I'd do it from the base. But who knows, maybe I'll build something out over here or something, or there's a cool biome in this direction. We'll see as the world develops. But anyways, so we finally got our track out here. I'm going to talk a little bit about what's going to happen next with the track. There's going to be a lot of building ahead of us. And so what that is basically going to entail is I'm going to label what I'm going to call points of interest. That is what I'm going to call it. And basically what was going on, so when I was building this track, I was getting really detailed in the small things. And so at first I was like putting slabs of gravel underneath on slopes and stuff, and I decided that I didn't want to put that kind of effort in. A, because it takes forever. I mean, sure, it will look nice, but really I'm not even going to notice it, that stuff that goes below the track anyways. I think I'm going to try and focus less on what the majority of the track looks like, and instead try and focus on creating some really cool special areas, areas of interest, as you may call them. And so this is going to be things like bridges and tunnels primarily, I think, but I also want to create small little other ones. And so maybe one I'm kind of planning right now is maybe like a little camping area where I put a little tent and a fire and things like that, just to really spice up our world, or like a horse stables or something like that. Just these small little builds that won't take me very long, but will add a lot of life to the track, and in a way that isn't just, you know, making every little slope look wonderful or things like that. So this is going to be our first area of interest right here, and I'm going to mark that on our map, and we're going to go on a little tour of the track and mark these areas as we go along here. So this is going to be number 1, and maybe I'll create a new waypoint folder for this. This is actually a good opportunity to do that. New waypoint set. What did I call them? Special areas of interest? Interesting spots. I don't know. I had a good word for it. I lost it. Interesting spots. And this is going to be number 1. Or I guess, well, this is on the end of the track, but whatever. We'll call it number 1. Doesn't really matter. So we'll go along the track here. And here we're going to wind up at our area of interest number 2. This is a really, really big tunnel. I feel like this one's going to take a long time, genuinely, because just like resource collection is going to be a nightmare. But I chose to do it. So, number 2, we're going to make a nice tunnel here. And as I'm going through here, you'll see how absolutely massive this thing is. Alright, and I believe right here we are coming upon area of interest number 3. That's going to be another bridge. Oh, free cam. I forgot free cam is weird on a train. Yeah, there's a big empty space here. This is going to be yet another bridge. This is going to be area of interest number 3. And also, I did realize while we were over there that I did miss some detailing. There were like floating trees and stuff. I didn't realize that. I hit record a little too soon, I guess. I will get to that in a moment. Don't worry, our track is going to be looking nice and pretty. But let's move on to the next one. Alright, so it was actually over here that I was thinking would be a good spot, right around this bend here, as we look forward. Right here, I think would be a good spot for like a camping area or something. So I'm going to call this number 4. And let's continue. Alright, and as I'm rounding this corner, this isn't going to be an area of interest, but I do want to point out a bit of what I was talking about earlier. I will get a quick sleep in, and I will show you really quick the kind of detail that I was talking about with the track. This is kind of what I had going on. I was trying to put slabs underneath to follow along curves and slopes, and it ended up really taking a long time. It's annoying to like get in there, place those, and then the resources it takes to get all those copycat slabs. You may have noticed in some other parts of the track. I don't know if I could find some free cam. Did I got any here? No. No? Okay, at some parts I was placing a lot of coarse dirt slabs as well. I think those things do look nice and do a great job, but really is just too time consuming, and that's where I'm kind of pivoting on creating more special things. And this one is actually something, maybe I should have waited to do this, but I did it as part of the montage. This is just a nice tough holding wall here. I thought, this is a little too tall to like cut into the landscape, I think, but this side is kind of flat too. So I think a holding wall looks really well here. And I actually used the same design here as we used over by our base. That's the exact same wall type. But anyways, right down the slope here, this is going to be the final area of interest, and probably, I think, the coolest looking one, at least in my head, because I've already kind of planned this one out in creative. I keep forgetting that free cam doesn't work very well, but there's a big old bridge that needs to go in here, and I've got some plans for it. It's going to be pretty cool. I think this is where we're going to start, and that is going to be our 5th area of interest. So we have 5 points where we have the opportunity to use some creativity and make our track look really cool. And I'm hoping it'll turn out well. And I think, yeah, like I said, we're going to start with this bridge here. This is probably going to be the main focus of this episode and the focus of this whole track, I think, since this is a part of our village here and I really want it to look nice. So yeah, I can finally go into free cam now. That's about how long it is. So you can imagine that this is going to be a pretty big bridge, and it will definitely make a big impact if it looks good. So let's make it look good and start building the bridge. Hello everyone, this is Mohr from the future. The boring stuff is over now. We're going to get into the fun stuff. Starting off with this bridge here that's in our main village area, closer to it, right outside of all the buildings. I will say, very quick disclaimer, I am a little bit sick right now, voicing this over. I was going to delay, but, this video is taking long enough, so Mohr from the future, powering through right now. Anyways, we're building this bridge here. I want to talk a little bit about what I got going on here. So, first of all, I went for a different block palette compared to a lot of the rest of the village area. I used a lot of woods, birch and oak wood, going around the village. Something I kind of, don't like about it looking back is that everything is kind of samey. The block palettes are a little boring, which may be something I even might go back and change about some of the old buildings. But in this one, I definitely wanted to keep things more interesting. So I used very limited amounts of wood. I went for these stones, some of the Create Mod ones. I used the ochrum, however you're supposed to say that. I used granite and I used driftstone. And I wanted to add a little bit more color to this as well. I think that was something I missed in a lot of the village, was adding little flashes of color. I did try in a few spots, but I think overall didn't do a great job with it. So the red of the granite is really supposed to stick out, and whatever you would call that color, the dripstone, I don't know, some kind of brown thing. Anyways. I also, at the very end of the build, I added in a support, which was made out of wood, and that was kind of a last minute decision, just based off of, when I was trying to find the middle, for the, what would you call that? The thing that holds the bridge together in the middle. You know what I'm talking about. That support I added down below because it felt kind of off balanced, that it was too close to one side compared to the other. I don't know that I'm super happy with it, but it's there. And yeah, one of the other goals I had going with this was I wanted a sense of like something grand when you're first boating into the village, when you're coming in from that side away from the village. I wanted it to feel like you were boating, underneath a big bridge that had a lot of significance in the village. So yeah, that's it on the bridge. Let's move on to the next one. All right, so next up we got this little kind of like encampment setup I got going on here. Basically, it's just meant to feel like a place where someone lives. I wanted to add some life into the world. This was a more creative section for me in this because this doesn't serve any purpose. It's not a bridge or a tunnel. This is completely unnecessary. Even in the aesthetic of just the rail line, this is something extra I did outside of it just to kind of make it feel more alive and add some life into the world. And just small little details in there. Something I really want to talk about and do in my builds is I want to add a lot of motion to them. And even just something like the campfire that's already in the game with the smoke and the moving texture, that little bit of motion adds a lot of life into the build. So that campfire is doing a lot of heavy lifting. All right, next up, we're going to talk about our second bridge. I will be completely, totally, and upfront with you right now. I think this one's kind of ugly. And, I think that's okay because I was going for a certain look with this, and I think I kind of achieved that because what I was going for is not ugly in the real world. And that is, when you look at those old railroads and they have those big wooden bridges with all that structural support that goes way down into the ground, and it's just a ton of wood piled up and it looks kind of ugly and horrible. That is exactly what this was meant to look like, and I think I kind of accomplished that. I don't know that the oak wood texture is exactly what I'm looking for here, but honestly I don't know what would be better. The whole thing was made with a bunch of copycats. The entire thing, I'm pretty sure, is copycats. I don't think I used any full blocks anywhere in there. Um, and I just kind of freehanded it with the shape. Something I wanted to try to do was to use creative a little less here. I did use it with the first bridge, and I did use it for the tunnel that's coming up, and I use it for most of the builds we do because I feel like I'm not very good at coming up with block palettes when I do it in survival. But this one I just kind of went right ahead with it. I kind of figured out that shape by myself. I think it ended up okay. But you don't really look at these things very much. I think it serves its purpose well. It looks like what it's supposed to look like. And even though it's on the ugly side, I can be happy with it for now. So that's bridge number two. All right, so next up, we're going to talk about the big, huge tunnel, which is in between. There's a big old hill there, and it didn't make sense to go over it or around it really because it was between two snow mountains. So we went right on through with a big, huge tunnel. And I want to say really quick, those tunnels, and I was not ready for it. You got to make them really big. Turns out the trains are pretty big, and so when I'm factoring in, taking the whole train in there. I got to make sure that it's tall enough. I got to make sure that it's wide enough so that the train isn't just like hugging it. So I need to make it like at least 5 blocks wide, just for the gravel and the track and stuff. And I don't even know how tall, like 7, 8 blocks or whatever I did. They're pretty big. So not only is it long, it's also wide and tall as well. And so this tunnel's pretty huge. And because of that, I was kind of limited, or I felt kind of limited with what I could use here as far as blocks go. So I basically just ended up settling on things that we have access to a lot of, which is the woods, the stones, and then I also threw mud in there as well because of our mud machine and the amount of wheat I have, which is a lot for some reason. I was able to put a good amount of mud in there as well. On top of that, I also want to talk about, oh yeah, I will say, when it comes to the block palette, as we develop our world here, hopefully we'll have access to some more blocks in bulk like that. Um, so this, hopefully, I won't have that limitation going forward with every tunnel we put in every track in this world. But anyways, tunnels in real life, they never look perfect. The ones you see on highways and whatever, they're always like kind of stained, kind of old. Um, And so I definitely didn't want to make this feel like it was perfect, in the sense that, everything was like flat blocks the entire way. And so during the stone parts, I definitely made a point to texture that. I threw in, regular stone as well as the bricks. All right, so we got our last point of interest here. This is the final bridge of the area, and yeah, just kind of like the first, or not the first, but the wooden bridge that we were talking about, the second bridge. I'm not really too big of a fan of this one, but it's here, it's in the world, it's done, and I think it serves its purpose well. But I'll tell you a little bit about why I feel that way and what's going on here. So, I wanted a different color going in this one. I feel as though in the mining area we have a lot of the same, the birches, the oaks, the stones. And so I wanted to add a little bit of a different color into it, something that kind of will differentiate it from the track. And so I went with the jungle wood for that one. And then there's just some tough blocks down below that help the support feel like it's there. I use the trick where you have fence, what are those, fence gates next to the fences, and it looks like it's kind of holding the block above it. All right, so that is going to be actually it for today's episode of Merms Minecraft. Man, did I realize that I can yap in some of those? Oh my gosh, I kept talking and talking. I didn't have enough footage to support all the talking I was doing. So maybe I got to change my editing approach in the future. I'm new to this, so forgive me. But anyways, yeah, that's going to be it for today. I did have some bigger plans, but unfortunately, it's gone too long. Those segments of building stuff kind of went on for forever. So my bad on that, and maybe it was a little bit of a boring episode because of it. But if you made it here, thank you. And if you aren't subscribed yet, please do so. And I will also give a little bit about next episode. So I am kind of considering our first area to be that village area over here. I think we are basically done with it. At least in the sense that like all the functionality I want to put there is in there now. So what I'm gonna do is next episode is going to be like a point 0.5 episode, so to speak. It's going to be sort of an in between, and it's just basically going to be going over everything we've done in the world so far. And I'm going to go through and do a bunch of detail work and small builds all around that area and this mining area, and just kind of wrap everything up that we got going on around here. And so, in that regard, it's going to be worth watching if you've been watching the series. And I also want to make it a good entry point for new people. So that's going to be next episode, episode 9.5 or whatever. And that's going to be it for today. So thanks for watching. Like I said, subscribe if you aren't, and see you later.